Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to present to you an idea I came up with on my own. Surprise, surprise, something in the self-improvement space that is completely original. Except it's not. Not really. I know. I call this the spillover effect. And I want to give you a personal story, a personal background on how this has affected me, how I've seen it affect others, and how it can change you as well. We will start with the personal background. For me, at least, at one point, I was a very lazy kid. I laid in my bed often. I scrolled dopamine days after days. Hours and hours and hours went by. Something was missing. I felt it deep in my soul. I tried to fill this void. I developed an eating issue. I am now forever grateful for having this eating disorder. That's what we're going to call it today. I'm now forever grateful for having an eating disorder because now I'm a person I am very proud of in comparison to that man. But I would not be here today, bar the mistakes I've made before. When it comes to self-improvement, I have seen one thing happen over and over and over again. And as a person with ADHD, my pattern recognition was flaring when I found this out. There is a spillover effect from practicing one healthy habit because we are wired to practice these healthy habits, which really, by the way, they should be the norm, but they are not. Interestingly enough, if you trace it back to when you just started going to the gym, right? You're not sedentary all day long. You at least went to the gym. You will find that just starting one activity has led to many others. In my life, in my personal story, it was not just going to the gym. It led to me thinking, everything else I'm doing is pointless. Playing Xbox all day is pointless. What this led to next, sorry I burped a little. What this led to next was something very interesting. I noticed very quickly there are so many other better things I could be doing. Naturally, my curiosity started to flare. I could no longer stand playing Xbox all day long. I quit for 90 days, and in place of it, I put reading books. Fast forward, my first book comes from Amazon, Atomic Habits. This is why I'm here today, as the man I am. This simple book, just the simple thought that I should have lost some weight. Just me trying to lose that weight changed my life this much. Remember, butterfly effect is very real. Had I not developed an eating disorder, it would not have spawned the monster I was once. Oh, I'm not that guy anymore. But I once was a absolute monster in the gym. It wasn't on my own accord, of course. It was really because I was on gorilla mode for a bit. And you might as well say I was on steroids because between the pre-workout, the cold showers, and the caffeine, I might as well have been on steroids. Yeah, creatine isn't really steroids, and this is what this consisted of, but back to my point. This is the first book I bought. I want you to guess right now how many days I read this book in a row. This book took me a whopping 90 days to finish. And the reason it took me 90 days, some days I read a couple pages, other days I read many pages. One thing I had always had an issue with was reading books. My ADHD mind could not bear the sight of a book. Just looking at books upset me. And I never knew why. Came up with a bit of a hack. It's not a hack, by the way. Open your book to your table of contents. In your table of contents, pick out the most interesting thing you see in there. Read that. And only do that for 10 minutes. 15, 20, if you want to extend it. That little bit of effort drastically changed everything around it. Just this much effort. This is what I mean by the spillover effect. My discipline in one area carried over drastically to me doing other things. Reading led me to learning to clean my room every day, which doesn't sound significant, sure. But if you're ADHD, you know exactly what I mean when I say, when you do one thing, well, now you can't stop. Now you got task momentum. Now you got to keep moving. The next thing I did was pick up journaling. I have journals everywhere. I started to journal for weeks and weeks and weeks. Daily. I was journaling, exercising, reading books. I asked myself one thing. How can I take this even higher? Meditation was next. When I started meditating, interestingly enough, I discovered I had an ego problem. Now, we see that word ego as, well, I think I'm better than everyone else. This isn't always the case. I realized how insecure I was. I realized something bad was on its way. I was right around the corner of the worst burnout of my life. This led me to one thing. This led me to understanding you can work all you want, but if you're not proud of yourself, if you have no God in your life, if there is no self-love in your life, among other things, you are wasting your time and you are headed for burnout. You're headed for advanced mediocrity. I had held the most money I'd ever held in my entire life at this point in my life. Why wasn't I happy? I was talking to a friend the other day about this. Why wasn't I happy? This is the most money I'd withdrawn from the bank all at one time. I held the most money I'd held my entire life. The relief was like that. Past that point, I was back to feeling horrible. I didn't know what was wrong, but I figured it out. Interestingly enough, if you think back to every point of your life where you did not love yourself, everything else around it feels like it was for nothing. A mild sense of relief when you finish things. This is why I'm saying there is a spillover effect. And let's get back to the topic at hand. Spillover effect, right? What this has to do with it is very simple. Because I was doing all these things, eventually I figured it out. I loved myself the whole time. I was doing those things out of self-hate. I wanted to be better because I didn't like myself. I hated myself to the point of change. Months later, I realized I was fighting so hard because the self-love was already there. If you didn't love yourself, you wouldn't even try. And that's liberating enough. Spillover effect continues. It continues to affect my life today. I'm here trying to face my fear of sitting in front of the camera. I actually don't like doing this at all. I like making the video. I like editing it. Sitting in front of the camera and talking, I almost thought it was not for me. I really did. My channel's not huge. It doesn't have to be. This was an experiment. This was an experiment to see if I would continue being a bitch. It worked. Check out my video, Fear is an Illusion. I'll be making a part 2 on that. As for this one, to be continued.